You can find most of those pretty high on the list of confidence crushers for ambitious people. And the one that I want to talk about with you today, that is the fifth one inside of this section, is the one that a lot of confidence coaches don't talk about. And I think it's probably because they don't know enough about it to share it with you, but I do. I've researched this at length. It's one of my favorites. If I begin to nerd out, you will understand why once I get to the end. But the fifth point inside of this section is all about the inner critics. Specifically, the 7 different inner critic archetypes. So we're going to talk about what the archetypes are, and then we're going to talk about how they came to be and how you can engage them so that you can overpower them. Meet the inner critics. That's point number 7 inside of the Overpower Your Insecurities audio guide. And I understand that one of the best tools that people use to handle their inner critics before they learn about the archetypes is by naming the inner critic so that you can address it or tell it no thank you or tell it to go away or like, hey, I appreciate where you are right now, but like, can you beat it, scoot, please, right? That's a very common way to manage an inner critic. The more specific tool that people don't know and don't use is understanding the 7 different archetypes that can all be rolled into the one personification of the inner critic inside of your head. So I'm going to go through the 7 inner critics real quick here and how it is that they are developed inside of some people and how they can impact you as an adult. So the first thing we have here is the perfectionist inner critic. The perfectionist inner critic is probably one that you will resonate with most because we talk a lot about perfectionism in the circles of ambitious people. Perfectionism often comes up because when we put our heart and time and attention and passion into a project, we want it to be perfect. We have this visualization about what it's going to be and how it's going to help people, right? And so our perfectionist comes in, sets these extremely high standards on our work, and then makes us feel like crap and we don't meet those standards. The perfectionist inner critic, again, inner critics are very much developed in childhood from the people that we have around us. So if you were a kid that was precocious, if you were a kid that was like excelled at things very easily when you were a kid, and the people that you had around you, your parents, your teachers, your coaches, your community members, were always like, you know, she's the best at it, or she's got this, no problem. But then as you got older, you stopped being so easily able to do things. And people were like, what's wrong with you? You're normally so great at it. You normally pick things up really quickly. The inner critic, the perfectionist inner critic usually develops around that space when you feel like people used to tell me I was great at everything and picked up everything so easily. And now that I'm adult, it's not coming as easily to me. And why is that, right? Your perfectionist inner critic comes in, pokes the holes inside of your standards, and really makes you feel like you're not living up to them. The second one is the inner controller. So the inner controller this one works in a very cyclical way, which is that it really, like, if you're someone that deals with yourself through your vices, whether that's overeating, over drinking, overspending, over shopping, whatever it is, right? If you have an addictive personality to things like food, money, alcohol, shopping, like materialistic things. Social media is now a new great addiction that the kids are getting into for great. The inner controller, when you're not feeling good about yourself, you turn to your vices and then you overdo it with your vices. And then your inner controller comes in and is like, you shouldn't be doing that. Don't you feel bad now that you ate that whole pizza? Or don't you feel bad that you just spent $1,000 on Amazon? Or don't you feel bad? And then you do feel bad. And what do? You turn to your vices because for a minute your vices make you feel good, but then your inner controller comes in and says, don't you feel bad? And then you're like, yeah, I do. So then you turn to your vice, and it's this whole cyclical nature of behavior. So understanding how your inner controller, inner critic impacts you can actually help you separate from overdoing it with your vices. Not stopping them completely, but knowing how it is that you use them as a way to self-soothe and things like that. Okay, so the third one here is the Underminer. The Underminer inner critic just likes to come in and poke holes in your self-confidence. I know that there's a lot of like mean girl and bullying that goes on with my Underminer. Who do you think you are? Why do you think that you're the person that can do that? Other people are already doing that better than you. So like, why do you even feel like you should be doing, you can be doing it? You definitely aren't the person to make that kind of money. You're not the kind of person that people want to work with. You're kind of ugly. You're kind of funny looking. You're cockeyed sometimes. The gap in your tooth makes you look weird. Nobody likes people with curly hair. Just poking holes at the confidence that I have about my appearance, who I am, what I do. The Underminer will come in and just start poking at all of those pieces of the self-confidence that you are attempting to build. The fourth one here is the Taskmaster. Now, when I say that the Perfectionist comes in and gets us ambitious people, the Taskmaster is right behind. Okay, the Taskmaster likes to come in and make you believe that if you are not 100% focused and dedicated on the work that needs to be done constantly, that you will never reach the level of success that you are attempting to achieve. Ain't that a stinker, right? And those of us who are ambitious people already have this kind of mentality within us because our dreams and our success are constantly tapping on our heart, constantly tapping on our heads. And so we're like, gotta work, right? But the one thing that we've learned about that in the last couple of years is it always leads to burnout. It always leads to us feeling like the dream is not worth the work. If we're constantly go, work, then we're like, I don't have anything else to give. I don't have any more steam to go, right? And so now we're learning about the importance of rest and self-care, giving ourselves permission to slow down and be restful, right? But then here comes the Taskmaster inner critic and it's like, hey, what you doing? You're taking a rest? Oh, you're taking a you day. Oh, you turned off your phone. Oh, okay. So you think that you're going to be a success by taking a nap, by turning off your phone, by do not disturbing? That's what you think? Okay. Well, you're not, and you're going to fail, and you better get back to work immediately. That's your Taskmaster. Tell me, for those of you who are listening to me, have you heard that mofo before? I have. He's a very strong one inside my head, and he's definitely a dude. A lot of my inner critics have lady voices and tendencies, but not that Taskmaster. Nope, definitely a dude. Okay, so then we have Guilt Tripper. The guilt tripper is the inner critic that likes to make you feel guilty whenever it is that you go against something that you, your family, or your community has built up inside of you or around you as a value. Okay, so the guilt tripper is one of those ones that likes to keep you in your lane, even if you've outgrown your lane. So let's say you have this lane. They've been paving the road, they've been, painting the lines on it, and they're like, this is your lane. And inside this lane, we have the values of X, Y, Z. And in order to stay in this lane, you have to be this person, you have to do these things, you have to accomplish these goals, and this is your lane. The other people in your life are in this lane, stay in your lane. And then one day you go, I want to go over there, and I need a new lane to take me there. Well, the guilt tripper inner critic starts to make you feel guilty for wanting to exit that lane. And it starts saying, hey, but this is the lane that was created for us. These are the values inside of this lane that I'm supposed to follow. And yeah, okay, you don't know what's over there. Like, over there could be very dangerous. That could be a very scary place for you to be. And if you go over there, you're going to disappoint your mom and your dad and your siblings, and you'll be all by yourself. And the guilt tripper inner critic likes to make you believe that you will lose all of the people in the lane that you're in if you decide to change lanes. Now, the messed up part about the guilt tripper inner critic is that it doesn't give you a way out of that guilt. There is no way to lose the guilt. You are just constantly being given the guilt. And there's no way to alleviate that guilt. And that guilt keeps you in your lane. And you keep looking at wherever it is you want to go with that tap on your heart and the tap on your head. and you just don't go because you're overwhelmed by guilt. So the sixth inner critic is the conformer, also known as the molder. Now, the conformer has a lot of similar characteristics to the guilt tripper, but they're not the same, okay? So the conformer is made from this box that is built around you as a mold from the people who helped you develop as a child. So whether that's your parents, your grandparents, anyone in your family, the teachers that you saw every day, your neighbors, your community members, any people that put you into a mold that could have been around any type of like subject or ideology, right? You're in this mold. But at some point, some of you became a person that was like, okay, I get what's inside the box. I've been in the box. The box has molded me into this person. But when I peek over the edge of this box, I'm seeing a couple other things that I would like to explore. And then whoever helped you build your box comes by and slams the lid down and then goes, no, you're going to stay inside this box. You're going to conform to what you've been taught about who you should be and what you should do. And every time you peek over that box, and maybe you get an arm out, and then maybe you like put yourself up and your torso's out, or you have one leg and one arm hanging off the edge, right? The conformer inner critic goes, nope, and flips your ass right back into the box. Shuts the lid sometimes, right? And the problem with the conformer is, the conformer can be very confusing because sometimes, like the rest of the inner critics, the conformer likes to make you feel bad. Hey, you climbed over the edge of this box and we don't know what's outside of that box, but I'm fairly certain it'll hurt you and it's dangerous and don't go out there anymore, right? That's one side of the conformer inner critic. But the second side of the conformer inner critic is that it says, good job anytime you stay inside the box. If you stay inside the box, it goes, good. Good. That's exactly where we want you to be. See, don't you feel good inside this box? And so it praises you, which sends a message to your head that you're doing the right thing because you're receiving praise. You see that? You see how the conformer is a tricky, tricky inner critic? So then you stay inside because you're like, I'm doing a good thing. But then eventually you hear the rumblings of music and parties and exploration outside of that box, and you peek over again. You want to go out. And then your inner critic's like, no, and smacks your fingers off the edge of the box, right? Part of overcoming the conformer inner critic is learning when it's safe to go outside the box, right? Okay, and so the last inner critic is the destroyer. And I have a not so good feeling about destroyer inner critics because they are mean and they are ruthless and they are the inner critic that comes to destroy who you are on a very basic, fundamental, intrinsic level. It's the inner critic that comes in and is like, why are you even here? What is the point of you on the planet? Who do you think you are compared to all of these other magnificent people? And one of the examples that I like to use just to kind of give you a visualization of what this can look like with other people is I used to be in a group online with a bunch of different entrepreneurs and people who were ambitious and had projects that they wanted to see come to life with the intention of positively impacting their communities. There was a woman there who ran a nonprofit that was specifically for women who found themselves in situations that were harmful or abusive, and that they wanted to get out of them. So she had resources up and down the state that could help. She started a fund so that if women didn't have money, that they could actually get some funds to start the journey to getting out of their situations. They were constantly doing drives to collect items, like all of these things that were around her nonprofit. We all knew about it. And then one day she showed up to our group and she said, you know, I'm not looking for sympathy or anything like that. I'm not looking for you to like pat me on the head. But what I really need to know is if this is something that other people experience, especially women who are attempting to like big build projects. Sometimes I wake up and I just feel like a garbage person. I'm a garbage person. I am absolute trash. And there's a part of me that's like, but look at everything you do every day. Look at all the women that you've helped. God, I'm going to cry again. What is going on? These stories are so real. Sometimes I get so touched in my heart, and I don't know what it is about today. It's not that time. I'm feeling very much in my heart and my feelings right now. Okay. She's like, I know, I look at all of the things that I do every day and the people that I've helped and all of the aspirations that I have to make this something that's not just for my city or my state, but that is for my nation, or it can even be global. She's like, I have all these aspirations and I know I'm helping people, and yet I still cannot shake this feeling like I mean absolutely nothing. And more than meaning nothing, I'm crap, I'm garbage. And I was like, oh my God, how could you even possibly think that? And then I was like, oh, it's not her. That is the destroyer inner critic. Literally, no matter what it is you're doing, no matter who it is you're helping, no matter the positive impact you're creating, that destroyer inner critic comes in and is like, you ain't shit. And why are you even here anyways? It's the worst. And it can be the hardest one to overcome, because it's attacking you on this intrinsic, why are you alive? Why do you do what you do? Why are you the person that you are? Because it's crap. Like, that level is so deep and guttural. Like, it hurts so much that inner critic can literally stop you from doing what it is that you want to do. Now, inside of the Overpower Your Insecurity guide, I do talk about the inner critics, but what I also talk about is why it is important to know all 7 of these, and then how it is that knowing all of them can help you overpower them. I took a lot of time talking about inner critics today, so I'm not going to go too deep into that, but it's inside of the Overpower Your Insecurities audio guide. So when you listen to that, you'll hear the rest of it. But I want you to understand one pivotal thing about inner critics before I move on to section 3. And that is that a lot of the times we think about our inner critic as one inner critic, this one voice that's been developed, okay? And then when we understand that it's possible that our inner critic actually has these 7 different voices that impact us with one loud, booming voice, when you learn what these 7 are and which one of the 7, if not all of the 7, archetypes are within that one voice, you learn that you can pull the voices apart, and then they become much more manageable. Because they're not so loud when they're all together, right? When they're all together, I want you to think about, like, have you ever seen any movie where there's like a kid in the middle of a circle and there's like 7 bullies like pointing like, ha ha ha, no, you're done, or whatever it is, right? Like, you've seen movies, you know what I'm talking about. If that one kid was to take on all 7 of those bullies at one time, how successful do you think he would be? But if it was just one-on-one, how successful do you think he would be? That's what's up, right?